Yo, what is up? We are back in the Kurt Suite, my editing desk. Welcome to a new series called Edit With Me, where I record and share my editing process and techniques in After Effects and Premiere Pro. There's many ways to achieve these desired results in these programs, but I'm just going to show you how I do it. I don't know everything. I'm sure there's much better ways to do certain things. So if you see something or if you have any tips, just let me know, shoot me a comment or slide me a DM. You can always get more efficient in these programs, and that's just what I've been working on recently. So today I'm going to make a sort of clone freeze frame type effect in After Effects. I use these for looping videos. I recently did it in a BMX one where I had the guy bar spin. I will put that on the frame right now so you can see what it is. I had a lot of questions, so I thought I would make another project like this again, but instead of just recording a tutorial, I'm actually going to edit the video how I would and bring you along for the ride. So let's hop into Premiere and import our footage, and we will go from there. Alright, so I'll show you my folder structure. So I just dropped this on desktop. I name everything by date, so 2019-09-24, 30 dailies, because this is a 30 dailies project. Backflip, clone, freeze. In here I kind of separate everything from assets, footage, project files, and renders. So let's go into our footage, let's grab this clip, and let's put it straight into Premiere. Okay, so now that we have our clip in Premiere, what we want to do is drag this down in here to create a new sequence. There's a few things that we need to do to get our clip ready and exported for After Effects. One thing that we need to do is go up in here to the clip, right click, hit modify, and interpret footage. So this footage was actually shot at 120 frames per second, but comes out of the red at 24 frames per second. So what I want to do is I want to bring this back to regular speed since I don't want to work with any slow motion footage here. I want to take this back to 120, so I click assume frame rate, 120, hit enter, and we're good to go. So what I would like to do is slow this down just a little bit, as the full speed is just slightly too fast for kind of what I want to work with. So right click, speed duration, let's just take this to 80% and give it a playback. I'm just looking for something a little bit more smooth that gives you enough time to think. Here, that looks pretty good. All right, that is perfect. So let's just trim the clip here. We got a little bit of space in the front, a little bit too much space in the front. Let's cut that right there. Let's go into the raw settings on the red. I want to change the image pipeline to IPP2 and the Kelvin set to 6000. Looks pretty good. ISO set at 500. All right, so one last thing I want to do is I just want to adjust this sequence. So we're going to go up to sequence settings, and we're going to make this 2160 by 3840 to change it to a vertical 4K size. You could go 1080 by 1920 just to keep it 1080. I'm probably going to export it at 1080 in the end, but I want to go in with the highest resolution possible. So we will rotate the video here, left 90 degrees. And this looks perfect. All right, so it is time to export this and send it over to After Effects. I will hit Control M. Pull this up. I want to work with Apple ProRes 422 high quality output name. So what I have set up here in my folder is I have an assets folder, and here I have interim renders, which stands for intermediate renders. This is where I put everything and all the renders that I'm creating as we go for the final project. Okay, I'm going to call this flip clip. Go down here, make sure everything is correct. Check that, check this, and hit export. All right, so let's open up After Effects, go to our interim renders, find that clip, drag it in. Okay, so just grab the clip that we imported, drag it to the new composition button, and we will open up a new composition. Just gonna watch this through to make sure it rendered out correctly. Everything's looking good. All right, so what I wanna do is find the exact spot that I want to cut out. I'm thinking right, kind of right here's the frame that I want. I'm gonna hit Control-Shift-D to split this up. So right here, there's actually a few ways that we can cut them out. You could use masking or the rotor brush tool and do it directly in After Effects, but what I choose to do is send this frame to Photoshop. Now I will go Composition, Save Frame As, File. Down here, let's change it from Photoshop to PNG, although I'm sure Photoshop works. Actually, let's try Photoshop because I've never done that before. All right, so let's keep it as a Photoshop sequence. Hit OK. We'll save it as in the interim renders again. Let's save this as frame, flip frame, and hit render. All right, so let's open up our interim renders again. Double click on this Photoshop file to open it up. So what I'm gonna do here now that we're in Photoshop is double click, turn this into a layer, and we are going to cut him out. All right, so now I'm going to right click, make a selection. So now I'm going to hit Control C to copy and Control V to paste. Then we can turn this layer off and we have our cutout. So let's just go in here and touch up these couple gaps quick. Now we want to send this over to After Effects. Let's go File, Export, Export As. We're going to export this as a PNG with a transparent background. Hit Export All. Let's save this in our interim renders folder again. I will save this as flip frame cutout. All right, now let's open up our After Effects, go back to our composition, open up interim renders, and pull in this cutout frame that we just made. Now that we're back in After Effects in this composition, we need to extend this composition a little bit. Let's go Composition. Composition settings. Let's change this to something like 15 seconds to give us a little bit more room to work in. All right, so what we want to do now is create our looping sequence to use as our backplate. We will select both of these and hit Control D to make a copy. Because I use a tripod, you can see that the start of the clip and end of the clip are in the exact same place. If you didn't use a tripod, what you could do is you could use a warp stabilizer to stabilize the clips with no motion and then hope that the beginning and the end lines up perfectly. But if you really want to make sure that you have no problems, I suggest using a tripod. That makes it so much easier. Last time I did not use a tripod, and even when I stabilized the clips for no motion on the bottom of the ramp, there was still a bit of a difference. So all I had to do there was, instead of doing a hard cut, I had to do a bit of a fade, and I used some masking to fade that in nicely so you can't really tell. Okay, so now that we have a loop going in here, we can place our floating frame clone cutout, whatever we want to call it, on top. I'm going to want to start with them on. So what we want to do is right where he would jump into himself, which would be right here because we have that cut, I will hit Control Shift D, cut him out, as that's where he will disappear. So let's just check this. Okay, perfect. And then on the next rotation, what we're going to do is we're going to have him jump in. So Control D, copy this file again, bring it up, and bring it to here. So as he jumps in, he's going to leave a copy of himself behind. Okay, so now I will change the working area to this, and let's give it a preview. Okay, so a couple things I noticed. I want to keep the start of the clip a little bit long, so he's going there, but we don't need to keep it that early. So what I'm going to do is bring the start of our work area to here. And then he exits the frame, and as he exits the frame, I want to bring him back in. So this can stop about right there. And then I can cut a little bit of this start out again as well. So we'll go right there, right before he comes in the frame. And then we can drag all this over. So now I just want to give this a preview and see if I like the pacing of this just a little bit more. All right, I have one more idea. So what I want to do is when he's going off, I want to have him start coming back in already. So let's drag this up to here where I want to have him start coming in. But I wanted to have a bit of an overlap. So what I'm going to do is animate a mask on this screen here so that as he comes in, I'm trying to point, but this is difficult. I'm just going to do it. Okay, so what I need to do here is create a mask on this clip that allows him to start coming in while he's still riding off. Go down here, click on mask. Make sure to click the stopwatch so we can animate and keyframe the mask path. Sometimes you forget to click this and you move the mask and then you play through after and realize that you did not have keyframes down, which sucks, and you have to go back and redo it. All right, so now let's move forward a few frames to where the rider is finally completely off the screen. Let's move forward a few frames to about here. We can adjust this mask. Move the mask over. Move over to where the rider finally leaves the screen and the mask can come all the way over. So we just want to make sure that this rider that's coming in is within the mask the entire time. All right, so now we can play this back and check it out. One more thing we can do just to make sure it's nice and smooth is we can go in here, because you can see he has a bit of a shadow going on that's still affecting this. So what we can do is go in here and just feather this mask just a little bit. Resize the work area so that it all fits. Okay, so you could just end here and you would have a pretty cool video, but I want to take it just a little bit further, add a glitch on it, make it loop correctly, change a couple things. So let's pull this back out so we have a little bit more of an intro segment, because I want to do some camera animations on this when he comes in here. So let's check this loop quick. So when it ends, I want him there for a little bit so I can do a couple things. So the next thing I want to do is put a little glitch on this freeze frame clone. Okay, so to add the glitch on, we're just going to duplicate this layer so I can put the glitch layer on top. I've been doing some of my glitches recently with the red giant tool. So if I go to red giant, universe stylize, hollow matrix is kind of my go-to. Let's open this up. This is what it does originally. There is so many presets that you can choose from, but you can actually go in here under the effects and customize everything on your own. So although you are using a tool or a plugin, you are not actually always using presets. I have gone through each of these. I have played with most of the settings so that I kind of have a familiar feel of how to get what I want out of the product. I don't always just choose presets, but when I do something that I like, you can save it as a preset. So if I go up here and I go to choose presets, I can come down and select the one that I saved from last time. I did 2 layers of this, so first let's select layer 1. Perfect, so that has now been applied. And you can see that here. This is the horizontal glitch. And then I also want to add some scanning lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this. And on the second one, I'm going to choose a preset again, open this back up. We'll go down and choose Clone Freeze Layer 2 and apply this one on here. All right, so here we are with the second effect added on top. Awesome, so now let's duplicate what we have here, bring it back up, and also add it to the ending clone. And let's give this a watch. And this looks awesome. So now we have our looping float clone with the glitch effect. I don't really know exactly what to call it, so if you have something better, let me know. The last step that I want to do here is I want to add a camera. So If you right click on this work area and you go trim comp to work area, that kind of sets everything in here properly. What I'm going to do is highlight all of these and pre-compose what we have here into, so we kind of add it all into one layer. Pre-compose, we'll go here and call this backflip clone freeze with glitch. All right, so to add a camera, what we're going to do is go to layer, new camera. Go to 35mm preset, usually works good. And toggle the switches and modes here so that it shows the 3D icon. If it's not up there, you can click here to switch between the one that shows the blending modes and the one that shows the 3D layers. So click, make this a 3D layer. Okay, so to animate the camera, let's open this. We're going to work with our point of interest and position tabs. Point of interest controls what the camera is pointed at, and position controls what the position of the camera is. So we can add a keyframe here, but for point of interest, what we want to do is we want to alt click on this so that we can add an expression. For the expression, I'm going to type in wiggle. We'll go 1 and 40, which is I found what works good for me. What this is we're going to add an automatic wiggle to the point of interest. So where the camera is looking is always going to wiggle. The first number is the frequency and the second number is the amplitude. So the frequency is how often it's going to wiggle and the amplitude is by how much it's going to wiggle. So if we just add this in there, I can show you. Let's let it play a little bit and you can see how the camera kind of moves. So it just adds a bit of a shake in here and we can adjust that later. Okay, so now that we have this wiggle in, you can see that there is a little bit of black bars. The black comes in on the edges just because we're moving it around. So all we have to do is increase the size of this composition to get rid of the black areas. So maybe we'll try 110% and see if that covers everything. So that looks like that covers it all. This is another reason why I like to work with the largest file I can. So I went with the 4K vertical rather than the 1080, just so that when we are cropping in a little bit, we're not losing as much definition. Okay, so you could just stop here, but I'm going to add just a couple last things just to take it to that next level. I want to add a bit of a zoom effect that comes in, and I need to adjust the wiggle so that when it loops, the wiggle is in the same spot. That is a little bit more complicated, so we're going to leave that one for last. So to add the zoom, all I'm going to do is go down here, open up camera options. So I want to start off zoomed in and then pull back. And then when it loops, we're going to have it start from back and then zoom in a little bit. That's just kind of going to help. That's just going to help hide the loop a little bit better. So we'll go here. I want to set that right there. Then we'll have it zoom in a little bit so you can see what this looks like. All right, so it needs to go a little bit quicker. I will also easy ease this in so that as it goes in, it comes from faster to slow and kind of curves. You can see that represented in here on the curve right here. So I want to make it even a little bit more sharp. I'm just going to drag this out so that it slows down when it comes in. It's going to come in a little faster. Perfect. Okay, let's drag these over a little bit so it doesn't happen right at the start directly. And we'll make it so that it comes in, zooms back just before that rider comes in. Maybe even a little bit closer. All right, perfect. And then we'll do the same thing on the way out. We will have it punch in. So we'll have it punch in right here. Start punching in right there. And we'll have it go to the same spot that we started at. Right there. Okay, so I will do easy ease out. And easy ease in. One thing I forgot to do, I forgot to easy ease out this keyframe here as well, just to make it a little bit smoother. So let's just watch this and see if we like the movement. Okay, so you notice that during the loop isn't exactly perfect. There's a bit of a glitch there, and that's because of our wiggle. The wiggle is being animated, so it's constantly moving, so it doesn't start and end in the exact same spot. So what we need to do is we need to animate these values here on the wiggle. So we need to animate the 1 and the 40. So I'll show you how I do this. So let's create a adjustment layer. And what this is going to do is this is just going to hold our expression sliders. So let's go expression controls, drag in slider control, and we will drag this on here twice. So for the first slider, let's hit enter and we'll name this to frequency, freak. And for the second slider, we will name this amp. Let's go back in here, just so we can see these guys. Let's open those up down here. We will go here to where our expression is. We will type in freak. And we will type in amp. Up here, I'm going to go to freak equals. We want to drag this pick whip up to this slider. Let this go amp equals. Drag this pick whip to this slider. So now our wiggle expression is controlled by these slider values up here. We're going to leave the slider frequency set to 1, but we're actually going to animate the amplitude slider. So what we want is we want the amplitude slider to start at 0 and then increase up to 40. Then we want the slider to start at 40 or stay at 40 and decrease down to 0. The idea here is that for the very beginning of the clip, the amplitude is 0, so there is no shake. The shake comes in, goes through the sequence, and then as we get to the end, the shake goes down so that there's nothing. Hence, it should be in the exact same spot for the beginning and the end. Let's just double check this and see what it looks like. And as you can see, we have a much better matching loop. So I just want to adjust these zoom in times here. I like the zoom in, but the zoom out seems to be a little bit fast. I will go in here and adjust these keyframes. I think it was this adjustment that I made earlier, just because once I retimed everything and then added that easy out back on this point, that it wasn't as good as I wanted it. All right, cool. So here we have our looping image with the camera effect, the glitch effect, everything. This is exactly what I would do. So to finish this off, I would export it out of After Effects, open it up in Premiere Pro, add maybe some sound effects, add some audio, do a little bit of color, and that's about it. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give me a like, shoot me a subscribe. If you want to watch more edit with me's or check out some more video breakdowns, make sure you get to my Instagram, Curtis Media. You can either DM me there or leave me a comment on here on YouTube if you have any questions. I can try and answer those. I know we worked quickly. I don't know how basic to go on the editing stuff. I don't want to spend all time doing basic stuff. There's lots of tutorials out there on everything about this. I kind of wanted to show you just how I did this edit and what works for me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something, and I will catch you next time.